Welcome to another Math and Man video. Today you're going to learn how to factor trinomials where the leading coefficient is more than 1. You do have to know how to factor by grouping in this method. So if you don't know how to do that, I made a video on that you can check out in the description below. So hope the video helps. Throw a like and a subscribe and let's get to it. Here's 3 examples. Let's go! Just write down this graphic organizer if you're following along and let's jump to it. Number 1 says, find 2 numbers that multiply to AC. This is probably the hardest step. So first, multiply A and C. That's negative 18. We're going to write that number right here. And adds up to my B term. My B term is 3. On the side, if you're completely new at this, I would list all the combinations of 2 numbers that multiply to negative 18. And you got to know your mental math here. If you got a negative number, the only possible way to get that is that one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So I'm going to list them all out, but pretty soon when you get enough practice on this and you can do it in your head. Negative 18 times 1, but you can also write the other way, 18 times negative 1. Another way to get that is negative 2 times 9. Or you can also do 2 times negative 9. And I think the last way is negative 3 times 6. But you can also do 3 times negative 6. Those are all the possible combinations of 2 numbers that multiply to negative 18. In order for this to work, you have to find the right combination of 2 numbers that multiply to negative 18 and the same 2 numbers that satisfy this bottom condition. They gotta add up to 3. So you can go through each one of these. Like if I add negative 18 and 1, that's clearly not gonna get me 3. This one won't add up to 3. Negative 2 and 9 adds up to 7. That's not gonna be it. And you can kind of tell that it's gonna be one of these 2. If I have to pick the one that gives me positive 3. 3 and a negative 6 gives me negative 3. It's not that one. And seriously, this is the hardest part. Once you find the number that satisfies both of these conditions, then it's smooth sailing from there, I promise. Number 2, you're going to rewrite this middle term, this 3n, using these 2 numbers. So I'm going to write that at the bottom, 2n squared, and I'm going to use these 2 numbers to rewrite my middle term. Negative 3n, a positive 6n, and a negative 9. That last step, like I mentioned, if you don't know how to factor by grouping, you can watch the rest of this, or if you need more practice with it, I got a video in the description box below. But all you got to do is draw 2 parentheses like that, and then take out the common factors from each parentheses. Looking at this one, 2 and 3 don't have a common factor, but n squared and n. You can take out a common n, write that on the outside, and I will be left with 2n minus 3. So my goal with factor by grouping is to get the same parentheses out of the other one. This one I can't factor out an n, but both of these are divisible by 3. So I can take out a 3, I'm left with 2n minus 3. Here's the biggest indicator that your factor by grouping works. As long as these 2 are the same, you can factor that out once again, and the leftovers are these 2 numbers, n and a positive 3. Boom, we got that factored. Let's try that again on another problem. We're gonna go through this one a little faster. First thing is to multiply A and C. Write that result right here. It's gonna be 12, and my B is negative 8. Here's where your mental math, street smarts gotta jump in. 2 numbers that give me a positive number, but when I add them up, I get a negative. The only way for that to work is if your numbers are both negative. Because if I add up 2 positive numbers, like 2 positives, I'm never gonna get a negative out of that. That's never gonna happen. So that tells me that I have to use 2 negative numbers. I'm going to list all the possibilities on the right side. Negative 2 times negative 6. Hopefully I don't miss one. Negative 3 times negative 4. And I think that's it. -1 and -12, if I add those, I get -13, so that's not it. But bingo, right here, -2 and -6. If I add those up, I will get -8, which satisfies both these conditions. Those are the numbers that I'm gonna write right here. And trust me, this is probably the hardest part, especially when you start getting larger numbers than the ones I'm giving you. Once you got those two numbers, then we can rewrite the middle term. So we're going to exchange -8n into these two numbers. That way we can factor by grouping. I'm going to write that right below 3n squared, and I'm going to change -8n to -2n and then -6n plus 4. So I'm only changing the meaning of the middle term because this is the same thing as this, but at least I can factor by grouping if I got 4 terms. So I'm gonna put 2 parentheses here, and you're going to just factor out the greatest common factor from each parentheses, starting with the first one. 3 and 2 don't have any common factors, but n squared and n has a common n, which is what I'm gonna write on the outside. If I take out an n, I'm left with 3n minus 2. And this is my goal for the second set of parentheses. 6 and 4 can be divisible by 2, but if I take out a 2, I'm going to be left with -3n plus 2, which does not match that. So an easy solution to this, guys, is instead of just taking out a 2, factor out a -2, and you'll get 3n minus 2, which is what we're trying to get. So both of these match. That's my first set of parentheses in the factored form, 3n minus 2, and the second set is n minus 2. Factored, boom. You could also write it the other way around. You can write it like this. They both mean the same thing. Try the problem below. Use the steps on the side if you forgot them. So just pause the video, get out a sheet of paper, try it out, and see if you learned something. Here are the answers. So this one's not bad because if this is positive and this is positive, then both your numbers have to be positive right here. So you got to know your mental math. The combination that worked is 4 and 15. All you got to do is rewrite the middle term for step number 2, and then step number 3, factor by grouping. I hope that helped, and if it did help, throw a like, a subscribe, and I will see you on the next episode. Peace.